Sorry. So I did a couple of fixes. So if you downloaded the lab before today, I would recommend that you download now. Okay, let me change the view. So the same thing as before, download Kali Linux. Make sure we save it to the downloads folder. Okay. And then once you have it downloaded, you right click. And then what you're going to do is show more options, 7-zip, and then make sure we extract it. It's going to have the unzip folder in the location where you saved it. And that's where you're going to open and play your Kali. I have it on here. You know what? I think I'm going to remove this and start all over with you guys. So let me re-extract. Takes a minute or so. So let's look at our lab. So once you have your Kali and logged in, okay, if you have a hard time accessing it, let me know. I'll help you. So the first part, this stuff is review, right? We should know this. I know that, you know, I did some of this in 27, but not in detail. So I wanted to use this opportunity to show you how you can access or create users groups and username. So I put down some information here. So Linux operating system in general, you're going to have the primary group. Normally when you create the user account, the primary group is users, right? Just like Windows, out of the box, when you make an account, it automatically throws it into that primary group. You, of course, can customize it, but it usually is the same group as the name of the user. So what it does is it likes to create it, but it adds everybody to the users. And you can find the primary group information in this directory, etc psswd in this file. Okay. So like my Thursday class last week, they were trying to find out like the application user, but sometimes that can also be customized through the application. Then on the second level, the secondary group or your supplementary groups are the groups that you would nest with the primary. So that means that I can control the secondary group with certain file permissions, and I would be able to add the members into that group, and it would inherit the group membership permissions. So when we do this, we are going to use the user mod to create or to add the user to the group. Now, in technicality, in theory, that it should be able to create multiple groups while in one application, but I learned that for Linux, it will create the first group and then drop the second group if you use the separator. So you have to go into it with the group already exists in order to add the user, right? Like it doesn't make sense to add the user into a container or a group where that group doesn't exist. So if it throws the error, you got to go back and create the group. Okay. And then we can use the GPASSWD to remove the user from a certain group. So if let's say they got promoted or demoted or changed department, we would be able to do that with the option D. And then you can simply add the group by doing group add. So when we modify the account, like user in the group membership, we would do a user mod. you would do GPASSWD for removing group with the D option. And then if you want to delete the group, you would do group del. Okay. All right. So once you have your things extracted, your folder extracted for Kali, we are going to go ahead and open up our blue Kali VBox file, and we're going to go ahead and click start. And it's going to take a minute or two to log in, to boot, and then you just log in. So originally I had you go in and create this right away, but you need to make the group finance because it is secondary group, right? In the secondary group, we would then have to make first in order to put J Smith in there. So let me shrink it down a little bit. And then we'll go through. So let's log in using Kali, Kali. And I'm hoping one day YouTube or Zoom caption would get to the proper, I know I have a little bit of an accent, but I have to fix every time I say Cali in captioning because it just keeps saying Kelly. That's the next best word, right? All right. Okay, so once we're here, we're gonna go ahead and open up our terminal. Let me zoom in a little bit to make it larger so we can see. We're gonna go ahead and do a sudo. Remember, we have to have a super user do sudo group add. And we are gonna name our group finance. So if you want to make the group, you just do a group add, and it's gonna ask you for the password. Just type in Kali. So after you have the group, then you are going to add the user, and our user name is going to be J Smith, right? Some company they'll use first initial last name. Some they would use the first name dot the last name. So some would use, employee ID, etc. So you would do a sudo user add -G for the group. We are going to add them to the users, and then we're going to do a G staff, comma, finance, J Smith. So it's able to add staff, right, before the comma, but with the separator, we have to add the finance group first. So it should take that. So that means that we created this user account and add them into a group in one command. So after you created the account and add them to the group or groups, we would do an ID J Smith. So in the system, it's going to say the UID is this. That's the username that we gave him or her or them. And then we would have the group ID, which is the primary, that's the users. And then the supplementary groups is going to be your staff and finance. Okay. So your primary goes here, which is your lowercase g. And then your big G is going to be the supplementary. All right. So we saw, then we're going to take a screenshot if we want, but you don't have to. All right. Now we're going to do 2 more users because the whole point in this is to give you practice. So we're going to, you can always up arrow and then go in and change out J Smith to R Hernandez. And it's the same group, so that's easy. So the first one, we're going to repeat the prior steps. We're going to add R Hernandez to staff and finance, and use primary group is the user group. So that's easy. Then for the next user, for M Jackson, we are going to change the the last one. So in order to make this, you have to have the sales group, right? So in order for this to work, so I'm gonna up arrow key a couple more times, and I gotta make sure that sales is there. I might have forgotten to tell you to do that. So in order for M. Jackson to be in the proper group, we gotta add the group sales. And then we're gonna go ahead and change this with staff and sales for M. Jackson. Okay. So here we have 3 users, right? We have J. Smith that we started with. Then we have R. Hernandez, which is to have the same group membership as J. Smith. Then we added the sales group because that is needed for M. Jackson. So as you go along, you would you would identify the user, what groups they're in, primary groups and secondary groups. That's easy, right? So you should have a list. This can be on Excel or spreadsheet, something like that. And then I wanted to see each one. There are ways that you can see all the users, but right now, because you learned the ID, so we're gonna do ID, R. Hernandez. And we would see the details for the groups that R. Hernandez belongs to, and then the same thing for M. Jackson. So we would do ID M. Jackson. So as you have both of them, you do one screenshot, right? Just capture this. So you would see, and this is a way that we can check to see if they're in the right supplementary group and the primary group. And then you can also do groups, M. Jackson. So if you do groups M. Jackson, it's gonna give you the group that this user belongs to. So the primary and the secondary or the supplementary. So with that, we can answer question, how many supplementary groups are displayed for the user? We know that those 2, right? Because the primary were the users. So 2. Then we're gonna add another group called marketing. So we can do sudo group add marketing. So once you have the group, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make another group. Sudo group add manager. I just went over the Windows side of this with my 27 class in the last couple of weeks. So once you have these 2 new groups, now we're going to modify the identity of the user, right? Let's say that M. Jackson now move into a different department. We're going to remove him from sales, which is what we added him for earlier. And we're going to add him into marketing, right? Advertising for sales, that's different, right? So we're going to go ahead and use the command sudo gpasswd, and we're going to do a D to remove M. Jackson from sales. So it should say that it is removing that user from the group sales. And to add him into the marketing, we're going to do a user mod. So sudo user mod, and we're going to do a -A-G. Because it's supplementary group, we're going to do a marketing M. Jackson. And you can always check when you're done, right? I didn't put this, but you can check by doing groups M. Jackson. So now you can see that for M. Jackson, we are no longer having this person under sales, but it has marketing group. So that's correct. Okay. So you can also do ID M. Jackson. Whichever one you want to do, it still should show the proper group, which is staff and marketing. We're okay? All right. So at this point, we would screenshot for lab submission. Then we're gonna do the same thing for R. Hernandez. This time we are going to remove R. Hernandez from finance and add R. Hernandez to manager group. So you can do that, right? We can up arrow key a few times, or we can retype sudo gpasswd, delete, and we're gonna do R. Hernandez and from finance, so the proper group. So just like the username in the group. So once we remove this person, this account from the finance, we're gonna do a user mod. So for the user mod, we're gonna go ahead and delete this. We're gonna put the R. Hernandez into manager. Oops, sorry, I had missed an R there. And that should take, right? And when we're done, you can do an ID R. Hernandez, or you can do, so now in staff and manager for the supplementary or the secondary group, or we can do groups R. Hernandez. Fun, right? You can do this all day, easy. But if you have thousands of accounts, we need to automate it, right? You can write a script and just tell if this, look into this column, plug that in, right? Set up an array, something like that. There's plenty of things that we can do with coding. Okay, so I'm at 19. Just repeat some of the steps, take a screenshot. Now we're gonna delete the group. Okay, so we're gonna do a sudo group del sales. So we delete the group sales. If you don't have any error, that just means that you're successful. That's the cool thing about Linux. There's no confirmation needed. Windows, are you sure you want to delete the group? Right. And then we're going to do a sudo. Oh, I'm sorry, a cat. So to read your group, we basically access the directory that contains all the names of the group. There's several ways. You can do a cat etc group. And it would list all of these groups, right? Some of them belongs to application, you can see. And then the ones that we made are here. Okay. Is sales group listed? No, right? That's a given because I successfully deleted in step 20. So of course not. If it's listed, then you didn't do it. But before we delete the group, we have to look at who would be impacted in that group, right? So we want to make sure that we do that real life. Are the users associated with their proper group memberships from the prior step? Yeah, we have Hernandez, M. Jackson, J. Smith. Then we can do get ent group. Just another way to see, right, all your groups. So now, if you look at this compared to the last one, do you see, are they different or the same? So this one has root information, all the disk, all same, right? Application type manager, those are also object. So this is a good way for us to learn how to use get and, right, to be able to display, and this can be used with LDAP. So if you work with like group databases or a directory type of service, get and group is also useful. But you can always go to the folder where it's still going to access that directory, right? That contains your group details. So ultimately it's reading that directory, that file in that directory. Okay. All right. So in Linux, there are only 3 permissions: read, write, and execute. Okay. Very similar to what you've seen in the earlier Windows permissions, but no longer, right? So read is to view or to read the file. Write is to save or edit the file. And then execute is to run the file. So permissions in Linux is really simple. It uses octal system, either on or off. And so if you understand binary conversion, this part is really easy. Okay. So there are only 3 digits in for the value of octal. It's 0 through 7. So if we convert it from decimal to binary or binary to decimal, right? Octal means 8, and 0 through 7 has 8 value, 8 numbers. Okay. So when it is 0, you would see the indication as a dash on your permission. So that means that it's null. It doesn't have that permission. If it's 0, 0, 1, so when you're looking at each of the digit, it's read, write, and execute. From the left, most left is read, the middle is write, and the right-hand side is execute. So if read, write, and execute, if the third one is on like this, you know that that's execute is on and the other one's off, right? So 0, 1, 0, read, write, and execute. So read, no, it's off, right? Write is on, and execute is not. So W. Okay. And that's a 2. Why is it a 2 here? So the numerical indication, so it is 2 to the power of n, binary conversion. So on the right hand side, that's a 1. The next digit is a 2, so that's on. So here's the 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. So write and execute is a 3. A 4 is read only, right? The other 2 are off. So 1, 2, 4. Okay. So you start with the 1, 1 multiplied by 2 is a 2. So if this is on, then that's a 2, but it's 0, so it's off. And then the 4 is on the left. Okay. And then a 5 and so on. So you just basically add up the decimal equivalent of it and you would get this number. Hence the octal value. Okay. So next we're going to make a file. So we are going to do a touch. And I have you create a file called company.txt. And it is just an empty file right now, right? If you want a pen text, you need to do an echo or, you can do a nano. Then what you're going to do is you are going to add the staff group, right? To have access for that file. So we're going to do a sudo change group, and we're going to have staff company.txt. So the file name goes to the end and the group goes after the change group command. Oh, sorry, I had mistyped that one because I can't multitask today. That should take. Okay. All right, then we want to see the detail and permission. We would do an ls-l. This is not a 1 or, it's L. So I put lowercase l. So we can see, right? So to view the permission, you would look at the column from the left to right and list the top down as below. So on the left, right, for the type of file, the owner's permissions, the file owner the one who created the file, and then the size in bytes. Okay, so here's the size in byte. Okay, the owner of the file, right? And then so the owner's permissions, the group permissions, and other or global permissions. So there's only 3. So the owner's permission is read and write. Okay, the group permission is read only, and the world permission is read only. That's how you read it. They don't have execute. Okay, so take a screenshot. So what permission is granted to the owner for company.txt? Read and write, right? Like I can view and edit it and save. What's the permission granted for the group? You go into the next 3, read only. Right? So what number is that? We need to start, if you want to do, Linux certification, you have to remember those values. Yeah, 4, right? Just remember the placement. I put a table there for you. Yeah, so I think it has on here, it has the D for delete, so it added 1 in the front for the owner. Yeah. So because these are directory, so it adds the D, but yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still the same value. It's still the octal value. Okay. All right. So make sure we know the value. And then the world, right? Other, right? That's read only. Okay. So out of the box, we didn't really change it too much. We just add the group for it. All right. So now we're going to change it. So we're going to do a sudo chmod. Right? Whenever you modify the file, you do a chmod, and we're going to give it a value, read, write, and execute, right? So for full permissions for the owner group, and then the others, right? The 3 values, and then the file, company.txt. So now we're going to do an LSL. Right? So here we got 7. And then why is it 7? It's 1 plus 2 plus 4 gives you 7. And then 7 again, and then 5. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm highlighting the wrong one. There's 7. And then 7. And then, yeah, and then 5 for these last 2. Sorry, can't highlight today either. Okay. And you can play with it a little bit. You want to do 771 so you can see what that is, or 115, So play with the permission so you can know it better. So yes, you can, in Linux, we want to use the octal value, right? Take a screenshot. So when I go over octal with the computer science students, they're like, when are we going to see octal? Well, this is where you see octal in Linux. Okay. All right. So after we list that, take a screenshot, answer the question, compared to the previous step output, what changes? Well, definitely in the last output, if you scroll up and take a look, the ownership is definitely there, but the group and the world permissions or your global permissions, those have changed, right? Your group now has read, write, and execute. And then your other or your global permissions is read and execute. It doesn't have a write. So they can't save, but they can see it and execute it. So that would be ideal for something that is executable. But since it's a text file, it's not really ideal in that case for that particular those members. Okay. Those users. All right. So now we are going to install packages so that way the other stuff will work for us. So we're going to do a sudo su to get root privilege and do update because we're going to do install. You can do app update. Sorry, I put app get update, but if you want, really, you can also do update and upgrade. Okay. I'm going to get to here and I'm going to tell you, I think Perfar has issues, so.
All you need to install is PHP-XML. And that's what works for me.
It works for you? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, you can just get, all you need is the extension for it, but you know, you might not even need to go Perfar here. I might have read the old documentation for it when I did this. Oh. Okay, so we're gonna download this package, right? But yeah, Varo said that you just need PHP XML. It should be fine. Okay. Now, if you run this next command, right, it might be looping because I tried doing it earlier and someone was talking to me at the same time and the student was asking me questions. So I was not paying attention too much to retest it. So basically here, it's going to ask you, you know, when you try to run this go Perfar package, it's going to ask you want, so in the past, you can just type in all or all uppercase, right? And then, but see, this is the problem. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it's still the same. All the location is stated there for you, right? 10, 11, 12. I think this package is broken and it loops again. So it doesn't, it's a while loop that doesn't exit. I can tell already. Right. So you're going to do Control C. You don't really need the Perfar. You just need PHP, which can come in other ways. So Control C. So skip the second piece for 28 and 29. And then we just need the development package, right? I gotta go back and see if they're fixed this problem by doing other things, but you know, don't have time for that right now. We just gotta get the lab done. All right, so we are gonna download these packages. You guys know when you look at these packages what they mean? C compiler, right? For auto configuration library for C development packages. Okay. And then, so if you want to know what each of these packages do, you can go in and see. Because sometimes these are the dependencies for the applications, right? But we also are going to have to install other dependencies. But yeah. So it is written in C or C++ or something that needs a compiler, right? GCC is great for that. I love build compile stuff in Linux. I hate compiling stuff in Windows because you have to use Visual Studio, which is like crazy. I hate it. So, but you can install the compiler for. So this is gonna come down, and then you are going to install PHP OAuth. You guys know what OAuth is used for? I think I put a link in your notes. So whenever that we use it all the time when you use this package when you are authenticating through the web, like entering your username and password, right? But for PHP OAuth, it works with PHP. So if the server runs Linux like Apache web service, and they integrate PHP for the interface where you would see your username and password, little roles where you type that in for the form, then you would be in the back, it's using the OAuth. And then we want to say yes for here to install. So with that, we should have the 8.2, and this is going to go into command line interface. So we want to access this. And we're going to do a bash. So here we are gonna use the INI to the ini file, right? And it's under the configuration directory for the PHP command line. So after that, we're going to have it restart. So now we restarted because this allows us to run PHP with the Apache 2, and we need to restart the service after we had modified the configuration. Okay. Then at this point, you should see this, and I just want you to screenshot that so that way you know. You can also use system control to restart the Apache 2 service. We've done that in the past for this class. Then you can also check to see if OAuth is running. There are other ways to do this, by the way, too. So. Okay. And this is going to give you the overall view. It says that, OAuth is already loaded. It has these files, and the support is enabled. Okay. Then with that, we need to do Ruby. Okay, so we have to install Ruby for OAuth 2. So to get some application to work, you have to enable all of these services for your server, right? Your web server. Because I mean, if the application is for the web server, we have to have the web server. So we are using these packages to really support what we're going to be working on with the application for the upcoming part. So after the Ruby is installed, you can take a screenshot for here showing that you did it, right? Then for Squarefish, this is a phishing tool. It uses OAuth. And this is allowing you to do, it's great for like smart devices. There are others because I've done this in 27B, but it will generate QRs. So you can put that into email. You can also use it for iPhone. I think they have Android template. It's not as abundant as like Smish or some of the other ones, but it's pretty good. Okay. So you can also see their documentation here. So the ideal way is you would send out the QR, and then they would use that QR to basically it links them to certain things, and then they would fill out, you know, their username and password, maybe like an interface doing PHP. They have email templates for you to use. So it talks about that here. You can also see the documentation. So it will look something like this. Okay. It should be refer. Sorry, I had a typo. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to, you can move back to the directory, the original directory for root to install it there. Because if you do it here, you just gotta make sure that you get back here, okay? So if you did it here, you just gotta make sure that you get back to this directory. So I'm gonna do a CD. I might have to get back to that directory though. Let me see. So we're gonna do a git clone to get the package and install it. And then we're gonna do a CD squarefish. So in that directory, we're gonna do a pip install, and this is a Python thing. So you have to have Python installed to do a pip. And if you don't have pip module, then you have to install pip, but Linux should have that. Okay. And then, so here, because it's written in Python, right? And you can always do ls to see the content of this. So the squish, so you're running the squish.python, right? That's the py, that's the Python file. So you have to use the python-m command. And the email here, you want to make sure that you have a valid email address. I'm recording this, so you can try with the, set up a test email account, and then you can, the login for it. So you can check to see if it does send it. So I'm just going to use this, and it's going to fail, of course, because it's not real. Okay. So when you use a false email account, it's going to say that it fails, and you can try a valid email account to see if it works. Okay, so to test it successfully, you have to have a real email address. Well, now let's go into the other stuff outside of just sending the email. Okay, so this can be automated. Now we're gonna do the QR and to see what trigger. So what you can do is you can go into the configuration file and you can modify, like, all the details for the SMTP servers information, what you want, like where it's coming from, where it's going to, and so on. So like this. And I did steal it from the documentation. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in and change the settings. So we're gonna do a nano settings.config. And all you have to do is to move your cursor down to where it says SMTP email. And then here you would put in the legitimate email address of the sender, right? The phisher. So, and then after that, we would move down to the next line and we would have the proper password. So sender. So realistically, this is going to be real password, real email account, right? And they would set up, not real, but the email account that they use to phish. And then for the Squarefish server, this needs to be hosted. So this has to be a real server, right? Like, so you would have the registered domain, and then you would say this domain. So I don't have one for this, so we just do a thisdomain.com. But that would be a server that you would use for phishing. So on that, I would have a web right? Role, so maybe run Apache on it, maybe some PHP, put in a little bit of HTML coding, and then, you know, have it keylog something, right? That's the whole point. Okay, so here, you know, if you're running Microsoft, that will be IIS. If it's Apache, that's for Linux, so you can use Jinx, right? For Linux. And then when you're done, just Control X, yes, enter, right? And then we want to run the Python squish again. So up arrow key a couple of times. And of course, it's going to tell you fail again because it's not legitimate server and email addresses, right? But this works. I promise. You just need to like have the real account and the real domain. Okay. But I hope that, you know, through this process, you would know how to do it. So here, now what we're going to do is we are going to do multi-factor authentication and QR things. Like you would say, hey, you know, reset your password, scan this, or so pretexting is a way that we would convince the victim to give us some information. Pretexting is normally done with phishing, right? It's a way for them to do some kind of activity that gives us some information that we need from a pen tester standpoint. Or if you're trying to see who at your company would divulge this kind of information. So all of that information is here, right? 27B should talk about pretexting a lot. So now, what we're gonna do is we are going to, you can also write custom pretext, right? Like content of your email or your message needs to be convincing enough to, so my student who just came by earlier, she said, well, in order, she had sent phishing email about payroll and she had took, you know, copied the same logo for the payroll company and put it into the email. That's what you want. You want something that's really close to the real deal, right? And then, you know, be able to get the user to give the information. She said a lot of people click on it, right? So we're gonna, let me see. Yeah, it has, so you already in the Squarefish folder, so you're gonna do CD pretext. And then within that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna do CD MFA. If you're not sure, you can always do LS to see. So MFA is for multi-factor authentication, so we can do a nano QR code underscore email node hyphen .html. So this is a template that they're giving you. It says Microsoft Authenticator token has expired. That's normally the message, right? The code will be emailed to you. You should, you know, log in. And in here, it's important to note that you can't just use a template like this. You have to think about like, how do you want to redirect the people who click on this or use the QR, right? Yeah, a lot of the times, you know, sometimes people will be redirected to the real thing after, you know, after they had already entered the information, right? And most people don't know that. So let's say that I'm trying to log on to my Outlook account. And that, you know, I put in my, so it's gonna mask that page that I'm logging in and obtain my password already. Then after that, it's gonna loop me back to outlook.com because, you know, then I can authenticate. So the user doesn't think twice that they've been phished, right? So a lot of times it gets redirected to the real domain, right? After the information has already been phished. So in that, what you would need to do is you need to modify the link on how you want it to be redirected and so on. So just describe the content on what you see. And then I think this is omitted. I think you should be okay. You don't need this. Okay, so back to here, we're gonna control X to get out of that. And you're already in the pretext. So under square fish. So let me see if I do ls here. Let me get back to let's go here. I just lost my way right now, sorry. So CD square fish. I had a hyphen I mean the slash before and it looked like that. So at this point, this should be CD. I had it right before. And then if you're not sure, you can do an ls. And then util pi should be there. So you're gonna do a nano utils dot py. Right? If you love Python, you can go in here and you can, so comment, and then here are the libraries that's being imported. There's configuration values. So if you go down to the body right here where the HTTP OPSEC section, right? This is where you can specify like on how the utility for the application accept encoding, right? Server. So if you're using not Microsoft Server, this is where you would put it in, right? Like if I'm using Apache or Engine servers, which is Apache too, right? And so on. So what I'm trying to tell you here is not that you have to modify in the other configuration of the application, but because it imports in the util.py. So these are modules that work together for the application. You need to modify this too, okay? That you would custom. So if it is TLS, which is it is, right? But make sure that we match up the version, and then the content, okay? See, X-frame options, same as original. So all of this needs to be integrated. So for the integration, these are the browser that it's gonna be compatible with. Most all web application has that, right? Firefox, Chrome, or in this case is only Edge and Chrome. So you can modify it. So if you want this to be open on Safari, you gotta make sure that you program it so that way Safari can see it and also be compatible here. Okay. And then you go down to cross-site scripting and you can modify this, right? For blocking or not. So ultimately, we don't really modify anything much. I just wanted you to just show you the section that you would. And then you're gonna save, so Control X. And yes, and enter if you modified the file. And then to rerun Squarefish, you just need to get back to the other step, right? So so back to the other, I think 39, 38 and 39 will get you there. So we have to back out one. So you can do a CD Squarefish like this. Or CD. And then CD Squarefish. I think the Python file is here. Yep. So squish is there. So you can up arrow key a few times if you don't want to type it. Or you can type it. Python. So if you modify everything properly, right, I mean, it should plug all of the correct information in and the server information in, but yeah, because I don't have legitimate email addresses and server information, I have a fail. And that's, you know. Okay, so at the end, take a screenshot of your output with Squish or Squarefish. So put down what you've learned about Linux users' permissions and groups and all of that. Write a brief exercise to review what you learn about OAuth. You're welcome to read their documentation online. Why is it important for identity and access management? Describe how phishing attack like Squarefish can be used to exploit the identity of the user who are accessing a certain web application. So all right, any question? Need any help? I already spell-proof it earlier. There's a couple of things that I will edit to this document, right? Just clunky with some of the steps, but it should be good. Okay, let me stop recording.